Joseph Bazooka Joe Valtellini.
I get asked a lot, which type of boxing glove do I use when I'm training? But it's a difficult question to answer because it all depends the type of training I'm doing and who I'm training with and what I'm trying to accomplish. The most important time you need a bigger glove is when you're doing your sparring. One, you want to be able to protect your hand and you want to protect your opponent. I personally like to kickbox spar in a smaller glove, maybe a 12 or 14 ounce, because I know that I can control my punches and I'm not going to hurt my training partner. But those who are new to sparring, I would highly recommend using a 16-ounce gloves. Now, if you get more experience, that's when you get to play around with the smaller gloves. A lot of times when I was planning and training for fighting, I would use a 10-ounce glove in sparring. But I would train with sparring partners that I've trained with for many years. I needed to get that feeling of the small glove for defense. I needed to feel how I can find different holes and openings and just get comfortable in that size of glove. If I'm always training in a 16-ounce glove and now it's time to fight and I put on a nice small 10-ounce glove, it's gonna feel weird and it's gonna make you a little bit more nervous, let's be real, okay? So train with control, then you get to kind of decrease the size of the glove you're using. Light drilled sparring, yes, you can wear the smaller glove, but if it's time for that hard sparring, put the headgear on, put the 16-ounce gloves on, make sure you protect yourself and your partner. Now the second thing that we gotta look at is when we're doing our bag work and our pad work, and this is where it can change a little bit depending on what I'm trying to do and accomplish. So usually when I do my bag work or my pad work, I prefer personally a bag glove. To me, a bag glove is nice and small so I can kind of feel my knuckles land. If I'm using a 10-ounce or a 12-ounce to hit pads, I don't feel that impact. I don't get that feedback in my hand that I like to know that if I landed one with the right knuckles and two, how much power I had in my strike. So that's the most important part, really finding, you know, those knuckles that you want in the punch. And with big gloves, you can't do that. So that's where you want to change it up. I recommend, one, using a bag glove for majority of the time, and two, when you get closer to fight time, maybe that's when you want to put the size of the glove you're fighting with. Amateurs tend to fight with 12 ounces, where professionals will fight in 10. So if I'm doing slick boxing mitts, where I'm kind of trying to stay sharp, and it's just before fight, I will put the 10-ounce gloves on. But most of the time it's about toughening in my hands and making sure I punch properly, so I'm using a bag glove at that point. The last thing you want to look at is when you do your drilling. And drilling is almost like the pad work. You don't necessarily need to drill with big gloves all the time. That's where I like to change it up. If I'm, for example, wearing a big gloves during drills, I might not get used to the type of defense that I need to have. So that's where I might want to put a smaller glove on to work different things. So, for example, sometimes I might take it up a level and really make it more advanced. If I'm working, you know, defending heavy punches using my shell, I might get, you know, my training partners or, you know, my members here at Bazooka Kickboxing to wear the bigger gloves. So you get used to and getting comfortable catching the bigger punches. Now, as you get more advanced, this is where I like to do drills with 10-ounce gloves. This is what you're using in the fight, so this is what you want to be comfortable blocking with. Now, finally, sometimes I'll say, put the smallest glove you have on. So sometimes it's important to do drills in bag gloves because it changes the type of defense and the distance you need to have. For example, if I have an MMA glove on, I don't want to sit there on my shell because that's not the defense you use all the time when it comes to MMA and small gloves, because it's easy to get hit, you know, with the small glove. So when I get even my kickboxers to wear MMA gloves, it forces them to use parry and different types of distance. So again, they're learning something based on the glove they're using. Right? A little bit difficult to think, but once you really grasp this concept, you can really use the size of your glove to your advantage when it comes to training.